posted on YouTube. And so if you don't have to have an account or create a password or anything, you don't have to pay any money, you can just go to YouTube, and when you type in YouTube into your Google search, and you'll get to the YouTube site, and then just type in Knoxville Public Library. At that point, you'll have to make a choice, because there are several Knoxville Public Libraries. And so there's one near Pittsburgh, and there's, of course, the big one in Tennessee. But you'll see our distinctively painted quaint gray building and a little icon there, and that's the one you want. So if you click on that one, you'll see that there are about 35 or 36 videos that are on there. And sometimes people are kind of surprised because they don't realize that we have a YouTube presence, and Sherry has been pretty careful about that for the last couple of years. So if you go in there, you can see everything from story times for kids that have been taped to vintage Bruce Weaver greatest hits puppet shows. That sometimes some of those run an hour, and you can watch the whole thing on there. And we have some content that we created for the 100th anniversary last year, and then the two lantern light series that were the previous months. So if you have an interest and time and you want to go in there and check us out and see what all we have in there. Tonight's film won't be on there necessarily as the film part. The intro and the conclusion might be, but the film won't be on there. So I think at this point, I think we're going to go ahead and introduce Dr. Largey. And while Dr. Largey is telling us a little bit about himself and the background of the film, I'm going to attempt to start it. I have done a dry run, but with people watching, I'm always a little slow. So I have 3 components. I've got to get going, and you can chat as long as what I'm not good at is I'm not good at smooth launches. Smooth starts, all of a sudden I'll get it on my laptop, and then the next thing I know, it's on the screen. So not particularly classy or smooth at the launches. So I might cut you off. I apologize. Feel free. So we'll hit the lights and let you go ahead there. Excuse me.
And thank you all for coming. You have a real little jewel here in this town, this library.
Would you mind hitting the
And across the door. A couple of times I've come up here, and people are absolutely wonderful. And I think for a small town to have a place like this and to do these kind of things just doesn't happen everywhere. So I thank you all for coming out tonight. I thank especially Ellen for the invitation. It's a privilege to show this. So I thank you all. I'm glad to see Mr. Hartley here. He was my wife's boss a while back. He probably did a better job than I did. I don't know. Now I've been doing books and films about the county for quite a while. Back in the early 70s, I had a lot of students involved in community projects dealing with, we did little books on Roseville and Liberty and Morris Township where they have the snake hunt, and did a couple on Wellsboro, did one on Mansfield University, and they were all fundraisers basically. And then I got the idea, hey, let's start doing some videos, and so there we go. What's that?
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're ready to go. Yeah, this here is particularly, I thought it was particularly neat. The day before we showed that lawn was at Nessmuk's grave. That was not staged. That is for real. I think that's the most important. That's our endorsement of the film.
Oh, you're not new.
Sometimes not all of them come back on, so.
If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. As you can see, a lot of people are involved in this production. I'm glad you love the credit running to recognize those people. And this is basically an all-volunteer project. This isn't a multi-million-dollar Ken Burns production or a scale production. This is a minimalist production, that's what I've liked. As all our projects have been, minimalist productions with a lot of help from a lot of volunteers. Some of you may be familiar, all these films I've been producing are the same style. A lot of local people, Wellsboro Men's Chorus, Mansfield people, the voices are not paid voices. Some of you may recall the first film we really did that got popular was anybody saw the Austin disaster? That one, Willie Nelson volunteered his time for that. All the people in there were volunteers. How many saw the People of Honor on Tioga County World War II, and then we did Lester Ward. Anybody see the Lester Ward one? Lester Ward was founder of American Sociology, was chief paleontologist for the country at the Smithsonian. He grew up with very little education at all, but somehow learned 8 languages. So when he went around the world, he'd go to Germany, he'd give lectures in German, he'd go to France and French. He was an incredible individual, and he usually recognized as the founder of American Sociology. He spent his early life over in Towanda, so we did. So it's local people. We do them on William B. Wilson. Anybody see the William B. Wilson one we did? William B. Wilson was the first Secretary of Labor, and he is another remarkable individual from the area here. He came to America, worked in the mines at 8, and he tried to organize, he was a teenager, organize some of the young, like you saw these people on the film, the little boys in the film, and he got blacklisted. Then he became for the United Mine Workers, he started organized miners, and from there he became one of the few Democratic congressmen from this area at one point. And then he became the first Secretary of Labor, so for 8 years he served as the Secretary of Labor under Woodrow Wilson. So if any of you get a chance to see him, anyway, and then during that time he has also mobilized the country for World War I. And afterward, after his 8 years of service as the Secretary of Labor, he went on to run for U.S. Senator. And it was one of the only elections in Pennsylvania. There was so much scandal. We hear about scandal today. Well, when he ran for senator, he ran against a guy named Barr from Philadelphia, and Barr barely beat him for, he didn't win the majority. Barr got 52, I forgot what the total was at the time, maybe 52-48, something like that. But they determined that the election was so scandalous and so problem-ridden, so many fake votes, that the U.S. Congress refused to seat Barr. And that was that time in Pennsylvania. But Wilson didn't get appointed because he was a Democrat and there was a Republican governor, so he put another Republican and appointed him. So it was it's interesting that he was part of that. And then his daughter ran for Congress later, and then right in the middle of the campaign, she got ill and died. But anyway, if you ever get a chance to see the William B. Wilson one, I think you'd find it very inspiring so most of these films I'm doing, I try to, I'm a sociologist by trade, so I'm looking at how social conditions relate to going on in the society and how individuals were responding to those social conditions. Here you had Nessmuk responding to the situation in the country where he wasn't against lumbering, he was against deforestation so massive. He was trying to have a little more control over what goes on. The same with hunting. He was a hunter, he was a fisherman. He believed in it. He also believed in having needed more rules to protect game that was out there. So, and the same with Wilson. He wasn't against capitalism. In fact, he was more for protecting. He would have been delighted with OSHA. He was for protecting kids that were being treated like slaves, and he knew it, fortunately. So that's what these films I'm trying to do, relating to people in this area and how they've responded. So that's what we try to celebrate the area by producing films about people from around here who've done a lot of, there have been people in this area here too, I'm sure, who've done similar films could be made about them. One of you can get around to doing it now. So, any questions? I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a question.
Yes.
This has to do more with numbers, but of the 3 tanneries, Gailton, Leetonia, and Whiteville, what was the biggest, like first, second, and third in terms of size for those tanneries?
Well, I suppose it varied because, you know,
Okay.
these tanneries would be put up, and when it was at that time, I think Elkland probably came after when there was
Yes.
more chemical, wasn't too relying on hemlock. So they move in like at Hoytville, you know, they have all that hemlock, and once the hemlock's gone, they pick up and go. In fact, things got so bad in Hoytville, it was right below Morris there, it got so bad, people burning down their houses and stuff, they couldn't get fire insurance. And they moved to the next area where there was a lot of tannery. Same with Cedar Run, you know. Well, Hoytville got all the attention, as you noted, in the Scientific American, which was kind of remarkable. When I found that article in the 1880s issues, I thought that was I kind of stumbled across that. So, but I'm not answering your question because I really don't know.
Okay, that's fine. I was
Let's
just,
be honest.
I was curious about if you wanted to see where the Whiteville one was. You said it's near
You
Morris.
wouldn't see much there.
You can't see it.
You
Okay.
might see a little
Just-
remains. There's
Okay.
one building there where supposedly where the offices are. It was a bar for a while. I don't think it is anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, but it's below Morris there.
Okay.
Once you turn, they go down toward Blackwell,
Okay.
be on the right.
Where can your productions be watched at? The rest of your,
Hmm?
where can we watch the rest of your shows at? Online somewhere? The rest of your
No,
shows?
none are online. We periodically show them. Maybe they'll show them here sometime.
Here plentifully
No, and we
throughout the
have one.
library system, there are DVD copies of, I know the Austin film, I believe is here on DVD and.
Yeah, we have
that
one. We
circulates.
have them on DVD.
And also the People of Honor is often shown. That is the one that's shown most often. But many of the libraries in the system have copies. And since you asked that question, Dr. Largey has graciously brought a couple of prizes which may be found under a couple of people's chairs if they look. You may find a sticker of a star about this big. If you look under the seat of your chair, and if you see a star under your chair, you may be a lucky person this evening. So if you have a star, there should be 2. Okay, so we have one here. Do we have another star? Okay, we've got 2. So these folks are. I have, there are 2, so I think they've both been identified at this point, so you can stop looking now, thank you. And,
You can have the Nessmuk or an Austin one, which I prefer. The Nessmuk,
and,
Austin.
your choice, whichever.
Either one.
I have a little bit of housekeeping, and I thank you very much. I would really love a little bit of a feedback survey. And we can continue to, anybody that wants to ask Dr. Largey a question can go ahead, but I would ask if you would just do a quick survey and leave it with either up here on the table or at the desk.
Take it home and do it.
Well, you can bring it back, but here, I'll just take it with you and
Yeah,
then.
'cause I'm just about.
Okay, so, that helps us know for the future what you might like. And does anybody have any other questions for Dr. Largey?
What's your next project?
Depends here.
Another project.
No, I'm good.
When you're pushing up toward the 80s, you get the wear down.
You gotta hurry.
One right now. I'm doing one on Wellsboro's movie star, Catherine Crawford.
Okay.
A rather interesting woman. She rather tumultuous life. She went from, she was born of a glass worker in Wellsboro, his wife. They got divorced, and then she moved to Myra, and then she went from one thing to the other, and ended up in the films. She was in films with Hoot Gibson and Bing Crosby and
Okay.
the Twins in the 30s. It's full quarter stuff. Then she became a famous interior decorator for General MacArthur and President Hoover, so it's kind of the way of flip-flop.
A lot of interesting history back here in the hills.
I'm sorry?
A lot of interesting history back here in the hills. People that are, think Elliot Nash and Counter Sport.
I'm sorry.
I know. I have the same problem.
Yeah, we can talk after.
Yep. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We often do things in the winter when there's not a COVID or a pandemic or some kind of restricting event. So maybe we'll revisit one of those topics a future winter. So we really appreciate your coming over.
Easy way for me to wiggle it.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, you signed up to come last time.
I think there's still popcorn and soda back there. So I guess if anybody has any other questions for Dr. Largey, you can.
Well, I'll stick around here.
Okay, stick around. So.
Oh, I think the other one's good. Cool. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, my dear. So.
See you later, Sherry.